Record passes, top grades, stellar GCSE results after a year like no other.
You passed all of it.
But despite the joy, the results make even clearer the fact that the privileged are soaring, leaving others falling behind.
On the issue of tackling inequality, they just got a U, and I think that's completely unacceptable. The gap should be getting smaller, it's getting bigger.
Also tonight, no one's above the law. Met Police Chief Cressida Dick orders a review of allegations of sexual abuse against Prince Andrew. The mothers and children fleeing the Taliban as one of Afghanistan's biggest cities is tonight on the brink of collapse. And
I'm known throughout the world as Aunt Sally.
after her death is announced, we'll be celebrating the work of Una Stubbs, a regular on our screens for over 50 years.
This is the ITV Evening News with Charlene White.
Good evening. We've used this word a lot lately, but after an unprecedented year, GCSE students have been celebrating unprecedented results today. 30% of results in England, Wales and Northern Ireland were top grades, which is a record high. But of course, none of them came from exams. They were cancelled because of the pandemic and were replaced by teacher assessments. And that sparks a debate over whether the old system is the best way forward. There are questions too about how to close the widening results gap between private and state schools. Our UK editor Paul Brand reports on the moment of truth for thousands of pupils.
This morning, it really was teachers holding the key to futures, having influenced the contents of these envelopes like never before. At Oasis Academy in Bristol, they handed over the grades they'd awarded, ready to be opened by the pupils of the pandemic.
I was saying I didn't know my heart could beat this fast.
Other end. Yeah.
Oh God.
Go honey! Go honey!
Oh my God.
It looks pretty good.
I got 4 9s and 5 8s, which I just didn't expect.
7 9 7 8 8. The rest 7s apart from French, but is that what you expected? Yeah, I'm happy.
So I passed all of it.
You passed all of it.
Oh my God, you did so good! I'm so proud of you.
In fact, more pupils passed than ever in another record round of results. This year, almost 30% were graded 7, the equivalent of an A or above. In 2019, when exams were last held, it was only around 20%. Again today, private schools pulled ahead. 61% of their results were 7 or above. That compares to just 26% of grades at comprehensives funded by the government.
On the issue of tackling inequality, they just got a U, and I think that's completely unacceptable. The gap should be getting smaller, it's getting bigger, and the pandemic and their chaotic handling of it has made it a lot worse.
The question for schools now, though, is what happens post-pandemic. Should an exceptional year remain an exception? Not everyone wants a full return to exams.
It would be remiss of us to try and go back to something that we've done 2 years ago and start, just reintroduce it. I think it's the opportunity to really improve, and we'll try and look at what's best for our young people and allows them to show their true potential as we go forwards.
But the government believes that is exams.
Now, we've been very clear that we think exams are the fairest system of assessing pupils' attainment. We've already announced that next year, 2022, exams will return, though we are making adjustments to those exams to reflect the fact that the students taking them will have suffered quite a bit of disruption this year.
So while a bad year delivered the best results, it is a record that's likely to go unbroken.
Paul, the government seems reluctant to make any changes to GCSEs, don't they? So are there likely to be any adjustments at all?
In the short term, yes. In the long term, I think no. So the government's just finished a consultation on how to go about grading next year, and the regulator Ofqual will produce some recommendations about that in the autumn. I think it's pretty clear from what we've been hearing so far there will be some kind of hybrid system between exams and teacher assessments. But in the longer term, exams are coming back in full. The Education Minister said today that they are the gold standard GCSE. So I think he is pretty clear that he thinks they should make a full return, and they are one part of post-pandemic life, I think, that isn't going to change in the long term.
OK, Paul, thank you. The Metropolitan Police is reviewing allegations against Prince Andrew after American Virginia Giuffre filed a lawsuit in the US accusing him of sexual assault. She claims she was trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein to have sex with the Duke when she was 17, something he denies. Geraint Vincent is at New Scotland Yard for us. What have police there said?
Well, the police commissioner was questioned on the radio this morning about what the Met's doing in light of new legal action that is taking place in the United States, where Virginia Giuffre is suing Prince Andrew. She claims that he sexually assaulted her when she was 17 years old. She says she was trafficked by the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, and that one of the sexual assaults took place on the night that this photograph was taken at the London home of Epstein's friend Ghislaine Maxwell. Prince Andrew has vehemently denied the allegations made against him, but this is what Cressida Dick had to say this morning.
It's been reviewed twice before. We work closely with the CPS. We are, of course, open to working with authorities from overseas. We will give them every assistance if they want to, if they ask us for anything within the law, obviously.
And as a result of New York.
And as a result of what's going on, right. I've asked my team to have another look at the material.
And the Commissioner also made clear that there was no active investigation going on at the moment, but she was asked a direct question, is the Duke above the law? And she replied immediately, no one is above the law. A spokesman for the Duke has meanwhile made clear this week that they have no comment to make about the new lawsuit.
Geraint, thank you. It's been revealed that hospital waiting lists in England are longer than ever. A situation Health Secretary Sajid Javid has warned will get worse before it gets better. Almost 5.5 million people are waiting to start treatment, with millions more likely to come forward as the threat from COVID subsides. It's a desperate time for many awaiting procedures, and as Rebecca Barry reports, it's forced some to look elsewhere for help.
I wouldn't be thinking about having a nice time with my family. I'd be thinking about how much pain am I going to be in tonight or tomorrow.
For Emma, 4 years of endometriosis pain became so unbearable she couldn't face waiting any longer for an operation on the NHS. So she fundraised and took out a loan, £13,000 in all, to have it done privately.
I felt like I had no other option at all because I was living with pretty much daily pain. It's hard to live with a chronic illness and then think, well, what else am I going to do other than have to, go down the drastic route of paying so much money just for help.
Here at Coventry Hospital, there's a perpetual flow of patients. It's the same across much of the NHS in England, where a backlog fuelled by the pandemic means the number of people waiting for treatment has hit a record high.
We are quite short-staffed today, but we'll just do as best as we can do.
Staff have managed to reduce the length of waiting times, but only by stretching themselves to the limit.
We have some great staff, but of course they've worked really hard over the last 18 months, and we're asking them to do even more now. They're doing what we call normal work during evenings and weekends. But of course staff are also tired, so we have to recognise the demands on their time.
Latest figures from NHS England show 5.45 million people were waiting to start non-emergency treatment in June. That's the highest number since records began in 2007. But the number of patients waiting longer than the target of 18 weeks fell by almost 25,000 compared to the previous month. The Health Secretary visiting a coronavirus testing lab today said the government will look at what more needs to be done.
We are providing the NHS with the resources that it needs. Already this year, there's an extra £29 billion gone into the NHS and social care, and we will certainly be looking again at what more we need to do.
But experts warn up to 14 million people could be waiting for care by the autumn next year. NHS bosses say they need more money for more trained staff to get through it. Rebecca Barry, ITV News.
The number of people pinged by the Test and Trace app in England and Wales has fallen for a third consecutive week. More than 300,000 alerts were sent in the week to the 4th of August, down 20% on the week before. It's being put down to a slight drop in the number of positive tests, as well as more people deleting the app. From Monday, people in England and Northern Ireland who are fully vaccinated won't need to isolate if they've been a close contact of someone with COVID, bringing them into line with the rest of the UK. It's 20 years since US-led forces invaded Afghanistan and ousted the Taliban, a conflict which cost the lives of 457 British soldiers, over 70,000 civilians and billions of pounds. Western forces have been moving out of the country in the past few weeks, so the Taliban has taken advantage and is once again closing in on the capital, Kabul. Back in 2014, the group controlled just a fraction of the country, having been pushed right back. But after the US and NATO withdrawal was announced in April, they've been advancing rapidly, capturing key cities. And today, there's been fighting in Kandahar, Afghanistan's second city. Our global security editor, Rohit Kachu, reports.
The Taliban is inching closer to the heart of Kandahar. Heavily armed men are taking over street by emptied street. The second city might be hours from being seized. A place of historic significance for the militants might be about to deliver them another consequential moment. It is difficult for us to verify some of the videos emerging from the city, but this appears to show heavy movement by the Afghan army on the outskirts. Reports say some soldiers have now left for Kabul. Moments ago, witnesses said that Herat, Afghanistan's third largest city, had fallen too. This footage shows the scale of the assault. The Blue Mosque is behind them, and they appear to be heading towards the police headquarters, 500 meters away.
Assalamu alaikum.
Perilous moments for the president of Afghanistan, forced now to focus on defending only the capital. His American allies saying they won't extend their support. And this is the human cost. More than 200,000 children have been forced out of their homes in Afghanistan.
The situation is dire in Afghanistan right now for women, children and families, and it is no exaggeration to say that it is getting worse by the hour.
The takeover is being met with little resistance. This was the city of Ghazni, seized just this morning. Since then, the Taliban has taken Afghanistan's third city and come close in its second. The capital could soon be in its sights. Rohit Kachu, ITV News.
To Germany now, where a British embassy worker accused of spying for Russia remains in custody in Berlin. Photographs have been published showing inside the 57-year-old's flat with a Russian flag and military memorabilia on display. Well, Ben Chapman is in Berlin for us. Ben, what's the latest there?
Well, this British security guard here at the embassy remains in custody tonight. Due to legal restrictions here in Germany, we're identifying him only as David S. But today we went to his flat where he was arrested on Tuesday night, accused of selling sensitive documents to Russian intelligence. And pictures of the inside of the flat, published today online by British newspapers, certainly give an insight into his interests. He has Russian flags, he has military caps from the Soviet Union, his bookshelves are crammed with Russian literature as well as books about military and Nazi history. He also has a book, a novel by the legendary spy writer John le Carré. Now, he's thought to drive a Ford Fiesta, but neighbours we spoke to today didn't really seem to know him. They described him as a polite but private man. Now, we don't know any more about what sort of information he's accused of giving the Russians or how much he was allegedly paid for it. But all of this raises more questions about the vetting of local workers at this embassy and others.
Ben, thank you. OK, still to come on the ITV Evening News. The Chancellor at the cricket as Britain's economy enjoys a post-lockdown bounce. Plus, the Olympic medal-winning teenage twins who now have another reason to celebrate. Those stories and more after the break. Welcome back. The economy's continued its recovery towards pre-pandemic levels, growing by nearly 5% between April and June. That was largely driven by the easing of lockdown, giving retail and hospitality a much-needed boost. But all that growth is pushing up prices, hitting the poorest hardest. Despite that, Chancellor Rishi Sunak says he still plans to scrap the universal credit uplift in October. He was speaking to our economics editor, Joel Hills.
School's out, restrictions have lifted, and at Wicksteed Park, summer is in full swing. The economic recovery continues, and they are feeling it here.
It's an extraordinary feeling. It's uplifting, but actually seeing the kids and the families out in the park, picnicking, running around, using the free playground, and doing all those things, it feels more normal, and you just think, well, you know, we're heading in the right direction.
Freedom Day was delayed in June, but the economy grew by 1%, even as the Delta variant spread. Between April and June, the economy grew by almost 5% as restrictions eased. However, output was still 4.4% smaller than at the end of 2019. The Bank of England expects the economy to return to its pre-crisis size by the end of this year. Growth is on the up. Unfortunately, so too is inflation. Rising prices hurt those on the lowest incomes the most. But the Chancellor said today he will push ahead with his plan to phase out the £20 a week uplift to universal credit in October.
If you look at the figures over the past 12 or 18 months, those on the lowest incomes have been protected the most. Income inequality is lower today than it was.
But if you go ahead with your plans, you'll create hardship, won't you?
Well, no, the number of people in absolute poverty is actually far smaller today than it
was
was previously.
If you go ahead with your plans.
Well, no, I'm not sure that's right.
Making universal credit less generous will affect more than 5.5 million families. Wow. Amy Strackens is one of them. She and her partner have 2 young children.
I don't think Rishi understands the financial impacts that it's going to have on families like me. We're already on the breadline. It's going to push us further back into poverty.
Rishi Sunak is confident that the economy is on the mend.
Chancellor wants to book today off.
He spent this afternoon watching the cricket at Lord's. The Chancellor believes the gradual withdrawal of emergency taxpayer support should continue to plan. His ability to do that depends on the path of the virus. Joel Hills, ITV News.
Extreme weather events are continuing to have a devastating impact around the world. Wildfires in Algeria have now killed at least 69 people. The country is facing the same heatwave fueling fires in southern Europe. 28 of the dead are soldiers who are deployed to fight the fires. At least 6 people have died in northern Turkey after severe floods and mudslides. The floods, triggered by torrential rain, caused several buildings and bridges to collapse. And 500,000 people have been affected by flooding in northern India. More than 1,000 villages in the state of Uttar Pradesh have been evacuated. Experts say the heavier than usual rainfall is down to climate change. A wonderful, talented woman, a consummate professional, a joy to work with and laugh with. Those are just some of the many tributes paid to actress Una Stubbs following her death aged 84. A star of stage and screen for 7 decades, she rose to fame in the 1963 film Summer Holiday, of course, and more recently won new fans alongside Benedict Cumberbatch in Sherlock. Paul Davis reports on her remarkable and varied career.
Where is she? Where's Mrs. Hudson?
To today's TV audience, she was Sherlock Holmes' eccentric landlady.
Lovely Sherlock, that was lovely.
Marvellous. Yeah, very good.
I wish you could have worn the antlers.
But Una Stubbs' career began half a century before running those famous lodgings in Baker Street.
We're all going on a summer holiday.
In the 60s, she announced her arrival with Cliff Richard in the movie Summer Holiday.
Listen, that woman...
To another generation, she will always be Rita, the rebellious daughter of Alf Garnett.
...in its beloved country. Well, never mind about it's being rotted away.
In its heyday, each episode of Till Death Us Do Part was watched by more than 20 million people.
You hung that phone up on me?
I ran out of money. I didn't have any more money to put in. It was cut off.
To younger viewers, Una Stubbs was Aunt Sally in Wurzel Gummidge.
I don't have a second name any more nor what does the Queen of Prussia have a second name. I'm known throughout the world as Aunt Sally.
Today, Benedict Cumberbatch paid tribute to his co-star, saying, Una was a wonderful, talented, stylish, gentle, joyous and honest friend. A joy to work with, to laugh with and to make laugh. So humble, yet so damn good. Those who worked with her recall her humour.
Do you like a cup of tea?
Thank you.
The kettle's over there.
Una Stubbs died at her home in Edinburgh. She was 84.
Paul Davis on the life of actress Una Stubbs. He's died at the age of 84. Team GB Olympian CJ Uja has been suspended over a suspected doping violation. The 27-year-old seen here in the middle was part of the team who won silver in the 4x100 metre relay in Tokyo. The Athletics Integrity Unit said he has provisionally suspended from competing while investigations are carried out into whether any violations have been committed. And finally, let's return to those record-breaking GCSE results. Among the students leaping for joy were twins Jessica and Jennifer Gadarova. And not for the first time this summer. They've already celebrated winning gymnastics bronze at the Olympics. And today they received some more impressive results to complete a tricky balancing act. Martha Fairley has their story.
Their twists, jumps and tumbles won them Olympic bronze medals. And today Jessica and Jennifer Gadarova were jumping for joy again, back to school at Aylesbury Vale Academy to collect their GCSE results.
Oh, the nerves can't compare. When you're at the Olympic Games, you have so many people watching from all around the world, and you got probably a little bit pressure having GB on your back.
How strange has it been going from the Olympics back to school?
A bit unbelievable and surreal that I've come back to the school, but this time with Olympic medal around my neck.
But if anyone can handle the pressure, it's these two young gymnasts who've perfectly executed the tricky balancing act of training and studying at home.
I think it's quite good that we both had each other for everything, because I think when you're on your own, it's quite hard to just deal with it all by yourself. Without the support of our teachers and coaches and just everyone, it wouldn't have been possible. We worked really hard and tried to find the best strategy and timetable to fit everything around and, get to the Olympic Games and then come back here for the results.
But like all world-class athletes, there's little time to rest on their laurels. Jessica and Jennifer's thoughts are already on how to pass their A-levels with flying colours while preparing for the Paris Olympics in 3 years' time. Martha Fairley, ITV News, Aylesbury.
Gosh, how impressive are they? Right, that's it for now. Raggy's got your news at 10 later. But for me and the rest of the team, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.